Let's get right into it. Most people aren't living their truth. They're living their conditioning. They're playing roles they were trained to play, wearing masks they were taught would keep them safe, chasing approval they were told they needed to survive, avoiding fears they inherited without ever even questioning them. And yet, something stirs deep within them. Something aches. Something's missing. Something whispers, "This isn't who I really am." You feel it in the quiet moments, when the noise dies down, when no one's watching, when you don't really feel connected to the life you're building, on a soul level. And that's not a mistake. It's not weakness. It's not brokenness. It's your truth, still alive beneath the noise, waiting for you to come home. And if you're here right now, listening, it means that part of you is awake. It means you're ready, ready to stop abandoning yourself, ready to stop editing who you are to fit someone else's expectations, ready to return to the only place real life can ever begin, your truth. Hey, I'm Mike Oglesbee, and today we're going to talk about one of the most important shifts you could ever make, moving from living by programming to living by personal truth, what I call personal power. Because you were never meant to live a life that looks good but feels hollow. You were never meant to spend your days performing someone else's definition of success, happiness, or worth. You were born to live a life that feels good to you, a life where your soul and your choices align, a life where peace isn't something you chase, it's something you become. You were born to live a life that feels aligned, on the inside and the outside. And that life, it doesn't happen through more achieving or more approval. It begins the moment you decide to stop abandoning yourself and come home to who you really are. You know you're living out of alignment when you're doing everything you were taught to do, checking the boxes, meeting the expectations, but on the inside, you still feel disconnected. You're showing up every day, but it feels like you're just performing instead of living. You're exhausted, not just physically, but spiritually. And you can't quite explain why. You keep hoping that something out there, a new relationship, a new success, a new achievement, will finally fix the discomfort inside of you. But nothing out there will ever heal what can only be restored within you. Because the truth is, every time you abandon your truth for safety, approval, or love, you betray your own spirit. You don't just lose your clarity, you don't just lose your direction, you lose a piece of yourself. And no matter what you build, no matter how much you achieve, if it isn't built from truth, it will never feel like it belongs to you. You'll always feel like a guest in your own life until you come home to the truth you abandoned to survive. From the time we were young, we were taught, sometimes directly, but often silently, to abandon ourselves. Be quiet. Be nice. Don't rock the boat. Make everyone else comfortable, even at your own expense. Fit the mold. Shrink yourself. Stay in line. And guess what? It worked. We got love. We got approval. We avoided conflict. We survived. But at what cost? We didn't just lose pieces of ourselves. We lost connection to the one thing that could have kept us whole, our inner compass. The compass that knows what feels right even when no one else agrees. The compass that doesn't shout like fear does, but whispers like truth. Because here's the thing. The version of you that's always performing for acceptance cannot also be the version of you that's living in truth. You can't chase approval and live authentically at the same time. You can't keep betraying yourself and expect to feel at home even in your own life. You see, at some point, survival programming stops protecting you and starts to imprison you. And the only way back to yourself is to remember what you were and who you were before you learn to abandon yourself. Let me be real with you. There was a time in my life when almost everything I built, every decision, every achievement, every sacrifice, wasn't built from truth. It was built from programming. I did all the right things. I worked hard. I hit goals. I showed up exactly how people expected me to. And from the outside, it looked like success. It looked like fulfillment. It looked like I had it all together. But inside, I felt restless and hollow. I felt like I was living someone else's life, wearing someone else's dreams. No amount of external success could make up for the fact that I wasn't living from my truth. And the terrifying part, I didn't even realize I was abandoning myself because I thought I was doing life right. And it wasn't until I had a hard, soul-cracking realization that I was chasing dreams that weren't even mine, that I was running a race I never even agreed to, that I was pouring my life into expectations that were never meant to define me. And deep beneath it all, I was afraid. Afraid that if I stopped chasing what others thought was right for me, I would disappoint them. I would let them down, or I would hurt people I cared about. But isn't it wild to spend your one and only life worrying about whether you're living it right by other people's standards? You're the one who has to feel and do it every single day. The shift didn't happen for me because someone gave me permission. It happened the moment I finally asked myself, what feels true to me? Not what looks good, not what sounds safe, not what pleases everyone else, but what feels aligned with my soul. When I started living by that question, my career shifted, my relationship with my wife deepened, my mental and emotional health transformed, my world opened up with new opportunities I never could have imagined before. Because when you align with your truth, you don't just change your circumstances, you change your reality. And here's something I need you to hear. Alignment isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't scream for validation. It's quiet. It's peaceful. It feels like breathing into your own body for the very first time. And yes, the shift was scary. It was uncomfortable. It stretched parts of me I didn't even know were wounded. But let me tell you something from the other side. It's the most worthy, sacred endeavor you'll ever choose. Here's a simple checklist to help you recognize when you've stepped out of your truth and into survival programming. You feel drained after being around certain people. Not just tired, emotionally hollow. Because pretending or shrinking takes energy your soul was never meant to spend. You second-guess decisions, even the ones that made perfect sense to you at first. Because somewhere along the line, you were taught to doubt your own knowing. You say yes out of obligation, not because your soul is saying yes, but because guilt, fear, or programming told you that you should. You feel an internal tightness when making safe choices. Safe doesn't always mean aligned, and your body knows the difference long before your mind tries to rationalize it. You struggle to trust your own intuition, not because your intuition is broken, but because you've been trained to silence it in favor of what others want or expect or demand from you. And here's what I want you to hear loud and clear. These aren't signs that you're broken. They're signs you've been conditioned, programmed to trust fear, conformity, and survival over the deep intelligence of your own truth. But here's the beautiful part. The moment you recognize it, the moment you see the pattern for what it is, you're no longer trapped by it. Because awareness is the first act of reclaiming your life and your truth. Awareness is where you take your power back. Awareness is where you stop abandoning yourself. Awareness is where you start walking home to your truth. Let me share with you a simple but powerful framework for returning to your truth. Now, this isn't about changing everything overnight. It's about reclaiming yourself one aligned choice at a time. Step 1, slow down enough to listen. Truth doesn't scream over the noise. It whispers beneath it. Stillness is how you hear it. Even 5 minutes of breathing, journaling, or walking quietly without a podcast or music blaring in your ears can help reconnect you. And one of the first practices I have my clients begin is a meditation practice. Nothing major, just sit and focus on deep, rhythmic breathing through the diaphragm for about 5 minutes each morning before starting their day. We build that into a more robust practice as time moves on, but beginning a practice should be short and simple, something you can manage easily as you learn to incorporate it into your lifestyle. Step 2, ask real questions. Asking questions is the best way to find the answers you're looking for to make the changes you seek in your life. But it's important to ask the right kinds of questions. Instead of, what should I do? Try asking questions like, what feels aligned, even if it scares me? Or what drains my energy and what expands it? The questions you ask yourself determine the path you walk. Poor questions trap you. Powerful questions free you. Step 3, trust the first truth that arises. Your mind will try to negotiate with your fear. It may say things like, that's not realistic, maybe later, or even, what will other people think? But your first pure truth, the one that rises before the mind edits it, is the one that will typically set you free. You might doubt it at first, and that's normal. That's okay. But think of it like a muscle. The more you honor it, the more you act on it, the stronger that voice becomes, and the more you become the person who trusts their own soul again. Step 4, act from alignment, not fear. You don't have to feel ready. You don't have to be 100% certain, and you typically won't, and that's okay. You just have to begin. Even one small act of truth, one conversation you've been avoiding, one decision made from your own knowing, recalibrates your entire life direction. Because truth isn't just something you know, it's something you live. And let me be honest with you, the moment you start living this way, it will feel scary. It will feel disruptive. It will shake the very foundations of the life you built around your false identity. Because you've constructed an entire life, relationships, career, habits, based on who you learn to be, not who you really are. And although it can be scary and difficult, the truth is that you've done scary and difficult things your whole life. Pretending to be someone you're not, shrinking yourself to make others comfortable, suppressing your truth day after day at the expense of your joy and happiness, that was hard. You already know what it feels like to survive difficulty. Now it's time to know what it feels like to thrive in alignment. And the more you move with intention, even when it's messy, even when it's uncertain, the more your true self will rise. And with it, a life that finally feels like it belongs to you. Here's what I've seen happen over and over again when someone makes the decision to stop abandoning themselves and start living from truth. Anxiety loosens its grip because you're no longer living in the daily friction between who you are and who you're pretending to be. Depression begins to lift because your spirit is no longer suffocating under the weight of false identities. Energy rises because alignment isn't draining, it's life-giving. Confidence strengthens, not because you're performing better, but because you're finally living from the one source of validation that matters, yourself. Self-trust builds because you stop outsourcing your knowing to everyone else's opinions. Relationships either evolve or reveal who isn't meant to stay. And yes, some will grow deeper, more real, and more aligned, while others seem to naturally fall away. Because when you live from truth, you no longer fit into spaces, relationships, and dynamics that require you to abandon yourself. And here's the real freedom. When you live from truth, you no longer need to hustle for validation. You no longer need to manipulate your image to stay accepted. You no longer need to overcompensate, shrink, perform, or explain yourself away. You no longer have to control how other people see you because you finally see yourself. And when you live from that place, approval becomes irrelevant because you are finally living for the only approval that ever truly mattered, your own. And let me tell you, there is no greater peace than waking up in a life that feels like yours again. Before we close, I want you to ask yourself, where am I still abandoning my truth to be accepted? What would change if I chose alignment over approval starting today? What's one small step I can take right now to move out of conditioning and back into truth? And really sit with it. Let the questions stir something inside of you. Because this isn't about becoming shinier or more polished version of your conditioned self. It's not about building a better mask. It's about remembering who you were before fear taught you to hide, to be somebody else. It's about returning to the part of you that never needed fixing, only permission to exist. You don't find your truth by thinking harder. You don't intellectualize your way home. You find it by living differently, by choosing differently, by showing up differently. Truth isn't a final destination. It's a daily practice. And every time you choose it, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's terrifying, you come home to yourself a little more. And that homecoming is what changes everything. If this resonated, share it. Someone in your circle is still confusing approval with alignment, and they need this reminder. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're not behind. You're waking up. You're rising into your truth. You're remembering who you are, and that changes everything. I'm Mike Oglesbee, and it's time to live your truth. Let's go.